The hell of the North is back.
Yeah, Paris-Roubaix is the third monument on the cycling calendar and arguably the most famous.
But why is it so brutal and how did it get its legendary status?
The answer is the pavé, the cobbles, bone-shaking, teeth-chattering and bike-breaking surface that turns cyclists into gladiators.
Today we are going to ride what we think are the toughest sections of the race, to give you the inside scoop before all the action kicks off and you know exactly what's coming up.
Yeah, so Matthew Vanderpool, Tom Pidcock, make sure you take notes, because here is our inside scoop.
Let's do it.
The men's race is 259.9 kilometres, which is 3.3 kilometres longer than last year's event. This year's route includes 29 sections of pavé, totaling 55.7 kilometres, which is 3.2 kilometres more pavé than last year's. This is the most amount of pavé in the past 30 years, with the two returning rows, Biastre and Le Remords de Botte, slotting in numbers 26 and 24 respectively. The women's race totals 148 kilometres, with around 30 kilometres of cobbled sectors, taking on the last 17 sectors of the men's race, including the two 5-star sectors, the Carrefour de L'Arbre and Mons-en-pévèle.
The first sector we're highlighting is found just in the men's race. It comes with around 150 kilometres to go, and it's really significant because it's the first 4-star sector of the day.
And it's these that really do the damage. This is the Quiévy à Saint-Python. It's an absolute brute with a distance of 3.7 kilometres and an average gradient of 1%.
And it is a super fast running. Slight S-bend behind me, the pace will be high in the bunch and they'll hit these cobbles as fast as you possibly ride a bicycle. The nervousness will be at the max. It is a slight downhill. As you enter these cobbles, you're off back onto tarmac, very rough tarmac, and then the sector begins for proper. The cobbles get rougher and there's a slight gradual uphill, which is really going to test the legs.
But it's not the gradient that really does this damage. It's the cobblestones paired with that distance, which give it that 4-star rating. Now, if you didn't know you were in Paris-Roubaix, well, you will after this segment.
Oh yeah, this is where the splits start to develop. Matty Mohoric actually has the fastest time on Strava on these cobbles. He did this sector in 5 minutes and 17 seconds, with an average speed of over 42 k an hour. Average watch 331. Considering we're doing 25 k an hour now, got a good idea of just how fast the peloton hits these stones. After that first drag up, there's quite a fast descent where the pace really picks up.
And if it's anything like the 2021 edition, then this bit could be absolutely carnage. But now you're on top of the hill, the pace is going to start to increase, and then it's on to the next sector.
Yeah, there'll be a big concertina face out of that corner, the bunch will be lined out, splits will be appearing. From now on, the race is really on.
So there you have it. The farm on our left marks the end of the Quiévy à Saint-Python, which is an absolute brute, 4 stars. And I tell you what, the cobbles match the distance with a bit of gradient, just makes for quite a hard section, that's for sure.
Absolutely bone shattering. It's so long as well. You get back onto the tarmac now, a bit of respite. There is a lot more cobbles to come in this race. This is only the beginning. And it gets trickier from here. Oh, come on, Hank.
We have arrived at the Haveluy Waters, our second sector that we've highlighted on the route today. Now this is an absolute minefield of cobbles, 2.5 kilometres long, and it's the viciousness of the cobbles that give it a 4-star rating.
Yeah, and it's not just the cobbles which make this sector so difficult. It is infamous for mud and dust. When it's raining, those cobbles get slippy, covered in mud, and obviously when it's dry, you struggle to breathe because it gets so dusty. Now, this sector isn't just called Haveluy, it's also called the Pavé Bernard Hinault, a great tribute to one of the best cyclists in French cycling, a man who won the Tour de France 5 times, Tour of Italy 3 times, Tour of Spain once, and he won Paris-Roubaix back in 1981, which earned him, as a Frenchman, a great tribute, a permanent feature on the course of Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, there's no gradient change for this sector, and the riders are going to be hitting this sector again at 50 kilometers per hour. Now, to put this in perspective, I think we're going to ride it, but we're not going to be hitting 50k now, are we?
I think we're going to do a better job of showing just how difficult these cobbles are compared to the pros.
Right, you ready?
We could be struggling. Wish us luck.
Come on, Connor.
There's a massive gaping hole already.
Oh,
look at this. You can have a tea party in that.
Now, if you're in the breakaway or you're at the front of the peloton, you can pick your way through these cobble sectors, and it's the crown. It's in the middle of the road where you want to be, where it's most smooth. The last place you want to be is in here, where it's super rough. There's potholes, missing cobblestones, and deep puddles.
Yeah, the danger is those puddles, they wash the water onto the cobbles, and you get that off-camber slope. Once you go off the crown, it literally feels like you're about to slip off into the ditch. Oh, I've got fear just riding them at this slow pace. Imagine doing this in a massive bunch. Now, this sector is the decisive point in last year's race in 2023 when Van Aert began to split the group. It comes about 100k from the finish.
Now, while we've been riding the sector, we've just bumped into the Amida Roubaix, the Friends of the Roubaix, this charity that looks after the sectors and cleans up the cobbles and basically repairs any of the big potholes. Now, just to show you how sizable the cobbles are, that is one cobble, and that will slot in, if I can do it, around there. Ready?
Oui, merci. It's been really cool to witness Amida Roubaix as they maintain these cobble sectors, which is so important because, as you can see, the mud, the rain, the farmland comes into them, and if they aren't maintained, these amazing sectors can be lost. So it just goes to show the work these volunteers put in. Au revoir. Merci. Oh, and here we are.
Welcome, mate.
This is the big one. Oh, 2.3 kilometers long, the first 5-star sector of the race, and arguably the hardest cobbles you can possibly imagine.
Yeah, welcome to the iconic Arenberg forest, known for its brutality and harshness and unforgiving cobbles that not only break the riders' bodies, but also their bikes.
Yeah, Filippo Ganna has set the fastest time on Strava on race day on these cobbles in 3 minutes and 11 seconds. It is a real fight to get onto this sector because you're coming from a slight downhill, quite a wide road which narrows dramatically as you hit these stones, and that slope continues on the cobble sector before it gradually starts to drag up again, which really wears your legs down. And as the famous saying goes, you don't actually win Roubaix here, but you definitely can lose it. The stones are just massive, about the size of my hand. It really is crazy. When you look along the surface, it's so uneven. Really just massive rocks here that you're riding over. And look at some of the gaps between the cobbles. This hole is huge and you're hitting this at such high speed. Imagine being in the peloton, in the bunch. You don't really know where you're going. You're just following the wheel in front. It's dusty, visibility is low, and you just got to hope that the person in front of you going to pick the correct line and get over these cobbles safely, which is why it is such a fight to be at the front. You have that visibility, you know where you're going, you know which line you're picking, because splits do happen and will happen at Arenberg. If you're not in the right position, you're gonna miss out.
This race is truly a spectacle, and there's nothing like it than watching the race from this old unused railway bridge here and looking at the straight line through the Arenberg forest, lines of crowds, everyone heckling and shouting, and the race piling over these harsh cobblestones. Now, if there's anywhere to watch this race, for me, it would be here. This disused railway bridge has become a bit of an icon in itself. Now, there's not a huge amount of people who can fit up here, but if you're lucky enough to watch the race from here, then trust me, you are treated to the most incredible view and atmosphere just looking down the long straight of the Arenberg forest. Oh Christ, that's way more brutal than I thought.
It's tough, isn't it?
If you guys get the opportunity to ride it, then you've got to.
Yeah, it really earns its reputation as a 5-star sector, the maximum difficulty that you'll encounter in Paris-Roubaix, 1 of 3. Interestingly, it's the only sector which doesn't feature in the women's Paris-Roubaix, and that is because their race start is in Denham, which is very close to here, and organisers deemed that having this sector in their race would impact things too much too early on. But personally, I'd love to see it make an appearance in Paris-Roubaix.
I feel like Arenberg is Roubaix and Roubaix is Arenberg.
It is, but it is an absolutely fantastic one to watch when the men's Paris-Roubaix passes through here. It is iconic, and when you get to the finish, if you do get to the finish, you'll be thanking your lucky stars, because if you're at the front, you are in a real chance of winning the race overall. Now's the time to check for any mechanicals, check what the state of the race is in, and crack on, because you're heading to the next sector, as are we. And from here, it's really hot up.
Yes, it does.
Straight up to Arenberg, back on the cobbles. So this is Pont Gibus, 1.6 kilometres long. It's only a 3-star rating for difficulty, but it's really well known for the place we're about to stop at, halfway through this sector. Absolutely iconic moment in Paris-Roubaix.
Now, the cobbles aren't quite as vicious as the Arenberg, but it's still getting closer to the finish. So the groups that are all split up, any of these sectors can become springboards for attacks.
Just like this, I've got you. The Pont Gibus name comes as a tribute to French cyclist Gilbert Duclos-Lassalle, who cemented his victory in Paris-Roubaix in 1992 on this very sector. And he actually went on to win the race the following year, 1993 too, earning a place in the heart of every French cyclist, a real legend, especially when it came to Paris-Roubaix. And the name is written there on the bridge. This is such an iconic place on the route. You see so many photos of the race passing through here, and it is a really good one to look out for when you're watching the footage on TV too.
We've reached our penultimate sector. This is one of the 3 5-star sectors in the men's race and one of the 2 5-star sectors in the women's race since its inception in 2021. This is used as a launch pad, and often the race-winning moves are done on this very sector.
Oh, yeah, 3 kilometres long. Starts with a slight uphill. There is a big 90-degree turn, which can prove rather tricky. Yeah, a number of runners come across there, drags upwards, making it tricky, but the cobbles here, they are rough. There's some really, really hard bits that you do not want to ride over. So it's all about picking your line, getting through the dust, or the mud. Woo.
Yeah, you definitely want to stay on the crown of the cobbles, because down there, it's just brutal. Now, halfway into the sector, the riders are going to meet this 90-degree left-hander. And on a wet day, this can be an absolute nightmare, especially if the riders are going on to potentially win the race. This is where you want to take a little bit of caution before you go on to the next 5-star and the last 5-star segment.
Yeah, but before you get there, you need to finish off Mons-en-pévèle, and this next part of the cobbles gets even tougher. The cobbles get bigger, real big gaps between them. It is super, super rough. You just need to go as fast as you can and make it as easy as possible for yourself. If you lose that momentum here, it does become a struggle. Now, we checked out Strava to find out what the best time was on these cobbles when done in Paris-Roubaix, and the honour goes to Guillaume van Keursberg, who completed this sector 4 minutes and 19 seconds with an average heart rate of 170 beats per minute, 176 beats per minute.
I was going to say 176 it is.
Which just goes to show how maxed out you are when you're in the race. Imagine being at your limit on these cobbles and trying to stay safe too. Right. Pretty remarkable.
We've got to get to the end too, mate.
I'll let you go first. I'm going to take it easy, I think.
Well, I keep dropping you, that's why.
We've made it to our last sector of the day, and it's a big one. Carrefour de L'Arbre, the last 5-star sector of the race, and it is a tough one. I think it's the toughest of the whole lot.
Yeah, it's 2.1 kilometers long and sits under 20 kilometers from the finish. So if the group's still together and you want to be attacking on the cobbles, then this is your last ditch effort to do so. And it has enabled some wins in the past, isn't it?
Because it is so close to the finish, this is always a launch pad. It is always a nervous moment. Dylan van Baarle went solo here, dropping his breakaway companions, Yves Lampaert and Matej Mohoric. And Grady Cansar have also launched big moves to take their wins in Paris-Roubaix, and it's a pivotal cobble sector in Paris-Roubaix Femme avec Zwift too, so it's turning into the sector of the race, I think, and it's a tough one. When you start back there in the town, you come through pretty tough, but it's after this left-hand bend where things really ramp up. That stretch of cobbles, honestly, it's hard just to get through them.
Yeah, and don't forget, you've also got an insane atmosphere here because you're not far from the Belgian border. So you've got a huge amount of Belgium and Flandrian fans here that are lining the cobble streets before the riders make their way to the Roubaix Velodrome.
Yeah, because from here it really isn't far at all. And you're heading towards the Velodrome, and hopefully you're taking that win, but you've got to get through this sector first. If you do, remember the shout.
Yeah, now we've got to make it to the end as the day closes, but we hope that you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed the little insight into these insane cobble sections that make Roubaix so iconic.
Yeah, let us know if you've ridden the route, what's your favourite sector, or where do you like to tune in to the race and start watching the action. It is a cracker, I love it, my favourite race of the year.
It's my favourite race, 100%.
Let us know if you enjoyed this video, please let us know in the comments below, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Bring on Paris-Roubaix.
Bring on Paris-Roubaix.
Bring on the cobbles for breakfast.
The cobbles.
Bring on the cobbles for dinner.
Yeah.
Pack lunch of cobbles.
Woo.